Jinkies, and welcome to episode 258 of First Geek for 11. I'm your host, Cameron Franklin, and with me, with a brand new head of hair from
Hi!
West Coast, Best Coast, is Emma. Emma, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, little tired, but I have white hair now for a very specific reason. I like committing to the bit.
The best kind of bit is the one that you have committed to.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in just a moment. But for our main topics tonight, we have Dune Part 2 box office, some Nintendo news, as well as an update on Scooby-Doo. Before we get into that, as always, we are One Geek 411. You can find us on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Check out our Discord server to chat with us during the week. And then you can also shoot us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. You can watch live on Twitch around 6:45 Mountain Time every Monday night. Then find the videos over on YouTube where you can like, comment, and subscribe. With that, Emma, why are you the way that you are?
Why am I the way that I am?
Yes, specifically with the hair, but
I am the way that I am because that is who I am, and I love myself very much. Which is the only appropriate answer, but also the hair is white because if you are someone who did not see on the internet this weekend, I went to Emerald City Comic Con. I only went on Saturday, but I still went with my best friend, and it was so fun. And we went as Aziraphale and Crowley, and of course I was Crowley, so my hair is white, and I am the type of person who goes all out on cosplay because it is my favorite thing ever. And it is my excuse for getting to dress up now that I'm an adult and can't do Halloween to the fullest.
So you can always do Halloween.
Can't. I can always do Halloween, but like I get to do Comic-Con on top of that fully. So my hair is white. Fully. Very fully white all of the way. Headphone removal is required to show it off. Because I was Aziraphale, and we were up until midnight bleaching my hair, and it did not go horribly wrong. Little iffy in spots, but it's quite good. A lot of fun. I could talk about this. We went one day, and I could talk about it for hours, but I will keep it minimal.
And I should have had this ready. I'm gonna toss up a photo of you in cosplay.
Do it. They're all there on the internet somewhere. But we did 2 photo ops. First and foremost, this is my best friend.
We're on everything. Can't see you.
We're on everything.
Sorry, picture was way too big.
I'm gonna keep sitting here.
Okay, you're good. You're good.
So this is my best friend as Crowley. This is me as Aziraphale. And in the middle is none other than Jodie Whittaker, the one and only. We got to get a photo with her, and it was so fun. And she is the sweetest human being I have ever met. So yeah. And then we also jumped in with the high school friends photo op with Lord of the Rings. So I'm going to show that off.
Nice.
Because Lord of the Rings is also nerdy. So I have frames coming for those so that I can put them up on my wall next to Peter Capaldi. And yeah, and it was a lot of fun. And then because I am an artist and I love art, Artist Alley was dangerous. I'm showing off all my art because I want to. This is the first one that I got.
Oh,
it is Aziraphale and Crowley, booping noses. It was very cute. And then I got this one, which is a fantasy map of Seattle, which tracks for someone from Seattle.
Nice.
So it's the most generic piece of art I will ever have in my life, but I love it anyway because it reminds me of home. Yeah. And then the last and my favorite piece of art, which I posted on the internet everywhere, is this piece of Aloy that I got the very last print of, and the moment I saw it, I was like, I'm gonna get it. And then my friend from high school saw that I got it and was like, I saw that earlier and thought to myself, if Emma does not get that, I would be very shocked.
Yeah, that is
So
insanely cool. Like all of those
yeah,
are cool, but like that Aloy in specific
yeah,
is like that is beautiful. Do you happen to have the card for the person that does the Aloy?
I do. So
Okay,
she
because
she also
I'm
has
curious.
I will share her Instagram page in the Discord. But her name is Gillian Newland. Um, and she had multiple. She had Aloy Horizon Zero Dawn, and then she had Ellie from The Last of Us. Those were the two that stood out to me. If I had not set a print limit of 3 prints for myself, I would have gotten the Aloy and the Ellie. Um, but because I already have my Last of Us print, I was like, well, and I have to choose one. I'm gonna get the Aloy because the Aloy is gonna go right next to the Last of Us print right over
Nice.
there because that's my gaming corner. um, so like I saw all of these prints and immediately knew where I was gonna put each of them. But Artist Alley is my favorite place ever. I would furnish my entire house with art from
Mm-hmm.
Artist Alley at Comic Con if I could. So that was my little art haul because I like to share my little art haul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
I love that. I love that you got a fantasy Seattle because that is like that's the most like I don't live in my hometown anymore, but I want art. I say because I have a picture of the Dallas skyline that I had
yeah,
up in my house in Connecticut
I
before.
want Seattle art.
Yeah, and so like I
And
100% get it.
it was a Comic Con exclusive, so that artist doesn't sell this normally. But she did it. She made prints of it and drew it especially for Comic Con. And it has a little kraken in the ocean, which I think is
Oh,
cute.
nice. Can you bring
Um,
it to your? Yeah, there you go. Thank you for translating my extremely vague instruction.
it's
That
okay.
is so cool.
I am in this industry. I understand what you mean. Um, so I saw it and it was very pretty, and I was like, I need it. Give it to me. Um, so yeah, there was my art and my photo ops. Because we were only there for one day, we didn't get to do any of the talks because we were running around trying to cover all of our bases. But I did get to see Critical Role from a distance.
Yeah.
Um, it was
I'm
sad I
gonna
couldn't.
hide the image, but I do want to just I made it big so people can see it and you. But yeah, this
Oh
cosplay is
yes,
so good.
yes.
Like,
So it's the photo you have up is my best friend in the all black Crowley outfit, me in the middle as a Zeraphale, and then my friend from high school on the right, who is Crowley from the second season when he sneaks into heaven
oh,
to
okay.
look at the files. So it is the whole wide range. We saw like maybe three other uh like Good Omens couplings
Mm-hmm.
while we were there. We were biased and felt that our cosplay was the best,
Yeah, y'all did a
but we
really
all
good job.
yeah, yeah, and we were like stopped at least once an hour while we were there, if not twice, to like have photos taken. So like we put so much love into this because that is like our bonding. My best friend and I especially, we joke
Mm-hmm.
that like we base it off of personality. She is Crowley and I am a Zeraphale. So yeah, it's just like so good, and we loved it and had so much fun. She committed to the bit for a good 3 hours in the sense that she wore contacts
Yeah, I
and
saw the picture of the
glasses.
contacts, and that's crazy.
And the only reason she ended up taking them out was because they were rotating and
Mm-hmm.
she had to keep adjusting them, which kept drying her eyes out.
Mm-hmm.
And so her eyes were super dry. Um, if she didn't have to keep fixing them, and or if she had like the eye drops with her, she would have kept them in. But yeah, she had the contacts and the sunglasses, and I was her seeing eye dog for a lot of the time she had those in. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I had a blast, and we're thinking the next time we go, we're gonna go for 4 days and do the same thing again all 4 days, but rotate through different eras of Aziraphale and Curly.
Oh, that's
So
so
each
cool.
day is a different. Like one day she's Bildad the Shoeite, and I'm whatever Aziraphale's costume is for that era. So like do the same
Mm-hmm.
characters all 4 days, but have a different era for each day. So
That's
yeah,
super fun.
and yeah, it was. I love Comic Con. as y'all know. It is one of my favorite things ever. And because I hung out with her all weekend and slept in her household all weekend, I got to hang out with her and her ponies. I got to see, I say ponies, they're actual horses.
Everything's a pony.
um, Everything is a pony. Her giant grass dogs are ponies. Um, and especially I got to meet Danny, her second horse that she ended up shipping over from South Korea.
Oh, wow.
She at first like worked with him and like met him, if you will, in South Korea when she was teaching English there, and then finally bought him and took 2 or 3 years. I want to say 3 years actually. To ship them over here because COVID was rough for shipping horses around the planet. And yeah, so I got to hang out with the ponies, and the other running joke with that is every time I visit her, it's just adult horse camp because
hey, nothing wrong
reasons.
with that.
Yeah, so that was my very exciting weekend that involved Comic-Con and horses and bleaching my hair late at night with my childhood best friend because we love each other so much. And yeah,
I love it. I'm so hyped.
Yeah.
For me, hey, it's time for tabletop RPG updates with Cameron. So, people that have been watching know been working on playing Marvel Multiverse as well as Candela Obscura. This past week we did session 0 of Marvel Multiverse and have session 1 this week. I have like the most wonky party and I love it so much because I told the players to like don't care about what your team is, just pick characters that'll be interesting to you. And so we have Daredevil, Mystique, and Morbius.
Oh, fantastic combination. That's so wild.
Yeah, it's like the most bananas group. Like they're so like punk. Like I'm so excited about it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Like we ran through the how to play and we did like a very easy sample combat where like they didn't even take damage, but it was just kind of like here is the vibe for how the combat is going to work. So that was a lot of fun.
How was the vibe?
It was good. Definitely some adjusting. We did it theater of the mind. And so there was a little bit of the like, are they close enough that I can do this? And it was like, sure. Like there are no rules here. Like we're just having fun. I really like the new dice roll system for how it works in that game because your roll to hit is also your damage. And so, because you have like one special die, that's your Marvel die, air quotes. And so you total up your 3d6 and that's your to hit. And then your Marvel die is your damage or is what your damage is based off of. So it's a really fun, like way of handling it versus like, oh wait, what weapon am I using? Do I need to do this? Like, how, like, oh, that's sorry, I was supposed to roll 2d8, not 1d8. And so it's just everything is one roll. And then you have multipliers based off the type of weapon that you're using or the type of ability that you're using. And so I'm really excited about it. I'm looking forward to them getting to know their characters more and getting to kind of see what that's going to actually be. And so, and then Candela Obscura, we did like session 1 and 1.5. We did not finish, but we had a really fun introduction to our characters. I have to remember to speak for that one like I'm not GMing, since that's like the one that I'm not. It's that and Pathfinder. And so it was really fun. My character, I believe, is a hit. People love Hugo Tellium. And he, for people that don't know, Hugo is based off of Bobby Newport from Parks and Rec.
Yes.
And so that's the
don't be suspicious.
That's the vibe.
Don't be suspicious.
And so like my character art is literally a picture of Paul Rudd. And it is a blast in a world of like serious characters. Like having Hugo be the comic relief as this like lovable oaf has been a lot of fun.
As he should be.
And so shout out to Mayfly in chat, who's our GM, and then Sneaky, who's one of the other players. And yeah, Hugo is so much fun. I definitely am struggling with, like, this is about doing investigations, and I am substantially better at investigations than Hugo is. And so I'm having to balance the, like, airheadness of Hugo.
I know nothing versus I understand where this is going.
Exactly. And I'm trying to find the line of, like, when is he allowed to be super insightful in a way that, like, even he doesn't understand?
Yep.
Of, like when is he allowed to be like, oh, I figured it out. It's obviously this. And, like, I think he needs to be wrong a couple times, but I need to just, like, come out with super off the top. But I'm just saying, Hugo Tellium's dad knows Benedict Cumberbatch. So that's pretty cool. And so, and then also this weekend started Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Nice.
So the sequel to Final Fantasy VII Remake. And it has been fantastic. I'm about 10 hours in. I put like 6 hours in on Saturday. And
of course,
am really enjoying it. I'm in like chapter 4, so I'm still relatively early on, and it is so much fun. I'm so happy to be back with these characters.
As you should be.
Yeah, I'm happy I played the demo because that lets you skip that section in the real game.
Yeah,
and so that was fun. Although you have to get to a certain point, then you can skip the rest, and that threw me for a loop. Because I was like, whoa, did I do something wrong? Why is it not letting me do this?
Because reasons.
Yeah, because reasons. And so there are some scenes at the beginning of the game that are not in the demo, interestingly enough, which is part of why they don't let you skip. And so I was really like, those scenes started and I was like, oh, what's happening? Because like...
new content.
Yeah. And so I'm really enjoying it. Like, again, Cloud is just such a, like, an emotionally stunted human being that I love him so much. Because it's just the, like, he has no clue that, like, people have crushes on him and is just, like, so clueless about, like, anything interpersonal. And it's just, oh, it's so much fun. And then the game is, like, super goofy. Like, there are certain sections that are just, like, hard melodrama. And then there's sections that are like, this is the goofiest thing possible, and I'm in for both. And so I have really been enjoying that. We'll have more news going on. I might end up doing a spoiler-free impressions or something in a future week once I finish the game or get farther in. So that might be next week. We'll see. I feel like I can't necessarily talk about it to the full extent yet, but we'll see what that looks like next week. And then finally, and this will lead us into our first topic for this week. The reason I did not start Final Fantasy VII on Friday is because we went and saw Dune 2, or Dune Part 2 in theater. And I gotta say, Emma, this movie is so good.
Yeah.
Like, it is such a fantastic theater experience. And it's the type of movie that I love seeing in the theater because, like, the giant screen and the surround and all of that experience just, like, adds so much to seeing it. And, oh, it's so good. There are some substantial differences from the book. More so than the first one.
Okay.
And
good,
so
bad, neutral?
Most of them I think are good.
Okay.
And even the one that I disliked the most, I do feel like it's handled well within the movie, but it is a change to one of the characters from the book. It is a very drastic change for that character.
Okay.
And so...
interesting.
Yeah. I'm curious for what it's going to mean for future movies, like if we get Dune Messiah, which I haven't read yet. It's on my to-read list. But if we get Dune Messiah, I'm curious to how this person's arc is going to be affected by the end of this. And so that's the only one that, like, I walked out and I was like, this seems like a problem for the future of this franchise. But that's not based on me knowing what happens to the character. That's just based on me being like, this really doesn't seem like it could line up. So the other changes overall, I think were good. If you're like, I would have been curious to how they would have handled some of them. But in a movie that like already has a lot of things that look super goofy, and they're walking the fine line of like, this is the most absurd looking armor that could ever exist, but it looks so cool and they handle it so well. There are some other changes from the book that I think could have thrown that too far into the goofy stage. It was like, without going into specifics, I don't want to go into spoilers, but in the book, there is a time skip. And that time skip does not happen in the movie. So that affects the ages of specific people. And so that is something that, like, again, broadly speaking, I think handled well. It does make it feel like the story is a bit rushed because everything happens much quicker than it does in the book. But overall, I think it was handled very well. Nerd Passing Nate says, but is Austin Butler's Elvis canon in this universe? Not with that voice. It's definitely not. He apparently worked with a vocal coach so that his character would sound like Baron Harkonnen. And it is creepy. Like, hearing that voice from him. He does such a good job as the villain. I do think some of the shortcomings with him is the shortcomings of that character in the book. Of like, they're not in the first part and they're kind of introduced part way through. And like, that's exactly how, like, that was a criticism of mine when I read the book, and that holds true here. But like, I think the acting as a whole is insanely good. Chalamet and Zendaya hold down as the leads. Butler and Florence Pugh are fantastic secondary leads. Like, they're not the main characters, but like they play their parts really well. And so it was such a good experience. I've heard that some theaters are doing a part 1 and part 2 marathon.
Mwah.
And
solid 5 hours at the theater, but you know,
I kind of want to go do it. Like, if we're being honest, like,
I'm sure there's at least one theater here in LA that's doing that.
Yeah, I kind of want to do it. Like, especially if the Draft House was to do it, because it's, man, I'm going to just get bottomless popcorn, have them bring it to my seat. Like, I've seen the movies, so I don't feel bad about going to the bathroom. Like,
the question is, would you get the popcorn bucket?
No, they do not do those popcorn buckets at Alamo Draft House, and I also would never want to do that. And so I also,
they're just weird. It's weird.
This goes for Disney as well, because Disney has like collectible popcorn buckets. That's a thing. The idea of getting it and then putting super buttery popcorn in it, and then it being gross as a whole, let alone the fact that it looks really weird for the specific Dune one.
Really weird.
And so, so all of that, no, definitely not. They did have pint glasses, which I was really considering getting, but we didn't get the part 1 pint glass, and then so we wouldn't have the set. And so, but we have a whole bunch. I need to remind everyone that I've made my stance on puns well known. Apparently, I accidentally made them. Made one, and so enter sadness.
Wah wah.
So that's my impressions. If you have seen Dune Part 2, let me know what you think. We can chat about it in Discord. Mayfly definitely took a lot of the changes. They did not sit as well with her. And so we had a really good conversation about that over in Discord DMs. And so I'm super curious to how how people handle it. Like I was talking to a coworker, and her fiance had read the book, but she hadn't. And so it kind of had that very normal divide of the person that read the book, had trouble with the changes. The person that had not really liked it. See my conversation about Avatar from last week. And she's now reading the book. And so I'm really curious to if the book is going to change how she feels. And so if that's going to like change how she feels about the movie once she knows like more of the source material, or if it's going to be stuff that like people encountering fandoms is really interesting to me. And so like we talked about with you with playing The Last of Us out of order, where you played part 2 before you played part 1. And so like when stuff like that happens, I'm always just like super interested to how that works for people.
Yeah. And it's the response is always different from person to person. Like I'm sure if we pick someone else to play The Last of Us out of order 2 first and then 1, they're going to have a different response to the whole thing than me.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think it's so interesting. And so with Dune, I also do want to shout out opening box office. Opened at 82.5 million at the North American box office and 182.5 million globally. I saw this post and I'm going to read this. It's the biggest domestic opening of the year. Wow. It beat Madam Web? Shocked, I tell you.
Not shocked at all.
And yeah, I saw that and I was like, A, good for Dune Part 2. Respect. But B, that's not an accomplishment. It's the first weekend of March. And there has not been another major blockbuster this year.
No.
So good for them. And so but yeah, those are great numbers. It did double Dune Part 1's opening weekend domestically, which is fantastic. So that one did 41 million, but it also released simultaneously on HBO Max. And so, because that was 2021, so COVID. And so that definitely would have affected box office. And then Dune Part 1 did end its theatrical run at 433 million. So it'd be really exciting to see what this ends at when we're currently at a quarter of the total box office opening weekend. And so super excited to see where this lands and to hear what people think about it. Before we jump, did you ever finish reading the Dune book? I know you had read the first portion. That's what I expected.
That's funny, Cameron.
Thought I would ask.
No.
I get it.
I am also trying to finish a 14-book, very large series right now, of which all 14 books exist on my bookshelf. And that takes priority.
Yeah.
Because I am on book 6, which is considerably deeper into the series than part 3 or part 1 of Dune.
I get it.
So, no. One day I'll finish it.
But there's a handful of things that I really enjoy that I get why people either haven't engaged with it or have not like completed it. And Dune is one of them.
Yeah.
I loved that book when we did it for book club, and I love part 1 and part 2 of the movie.
Yep.
And I 100% get people noping out of it. Like, it's one of the few books that we've done for like book club that while I did enjoy it, it felt like homework.
Yeah.
Because it's such a dense read that like I 100% get why people would that would not be for people.
And that is the specific problem with it for me, especially as someone with ADHD, is that first part especially does not engage me enough to keep me reading it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like,
Speaking of the invisible life of Addie LaRue, we can wave hands here, and people can find Shanine in my
mildly
book club.
intentional plug.
It is trimming right now. Will hopefully be up tomorrow. And so when this video goes live on YouTube, hopefully Addie LaRue will be live as well. And so people can check that out. Shanine and I did have a fantastic discussion. Emma, we missed you a whole bunch. Thank you for sending in your thoughts.
Always.
Super happy
we
that
love
we got
it
to
when Comic-Con weekend makes things go chaotically sideways. So.
Yeah.
But I did finish it. I did read it. I did finish it, and I loved it, and it was great.
Yeah, fantastic. We'll talk maybe a little bit Addie LaRue in post-show chat, because I do want to hear a lot of what you think. So let's jump into our second and third topic for today, which is Nintendo news. And so first off, this past week, we referenced this last week, but we did get the Pokemon Presents overall super boring, gotta say. Now, granted, some of that is like, there's so many like Pokemon spin-off games that like, oh, it's cool that Pokemon Grand whatever is getting content, but like I don't play that game. And so like I like, it doesn't mean anything to me. Or same with like Pokemon Cafe or like stuff like that, of just like, I'm sure this is clearly here for someone. I am by no means Pokemon's full audience. But broadly speaking, I was not interested. It was Nate in chat says I was hyped for the Unite and TCG app. So like, again, caveat, there were some cool things, but a lot of the stuff in it was super boring. And so the Unite updates are very cool, adding in some new characters, stuff like that. Always happy to see that game continue to do well. And so, especially like, I really enjoyed it when it had first come out. I just haven't really kept up with it. And I know we've played it on the channel before, and it's a lot of fun. So happy to see that continue to get content. There's also a new TCG app that is, I believe, kind of pitched as a way to play Pokemon on your phone, but it's apparently not quite full Pokemon TCG. It's like similar to, but not quite full TCG. And so, but the biggest announcement, the universe did not respect what I spoke into it last week, which was Pokemon Legends Ho-Oh. But we did get the announcement of Pokemon Legends ZA, which is going to be based around Luminois City. I don't know if I said that right. People can at me. And so it is coming out in 2025 and is potentially going to be a more modern game. The Pokemon Legends Arceus is set hundreds of years or 100 years in the past. Something like that. It's set in the past, but it's kind of weird because I remember there's like this weird, like, the number of years it's set back doesn't line up with like where the world is IMO.
Yeah.
And so this one looks like it's going to be farther in the future. And I'm really interested in what that is going to actually be. Pokemon Legends is what got me back into playing the Pokemon games as a lapsed Pokemon fan. And so I'm very excited to see what this is going to be. Will it run better than a slideshow? Only time will tell.
We'll see.
It is also, at least from what they showed,
a PowerPoint specifically.
Exactly. It is coming out on the Nintendo Switch. And so with that releasing in 2025, that we talked about rumors last week that the Switch 2 has been pushed into next year as well. And so it'll be really interesting if this is going to be a cross-gen release or if this is going to just be something where Switch 2 can play the new Pokemon game. And so, because it seems like this would be a very big miss if this comes out like a month before Switch 2 and then Switch 2 cannot play it. And so,
because Nintendo hasn't really done backwards compatibility pretty consistently in the past.
You are correct.
Like, it is not their thing.
Yeah. And some of that is because there have been like major shifts in medium.
Yeah.
So like obviously Nintendo Switch doesn't have a disk drive So you can't
No.
play anything that was a disc. But even my understanding is a lot of those digital releases don't carry forward. And so they've had to do that separately. And so even things where, like, again, this is me as somebody who's not fully plugged in, specific example might not be true, but stick with me. Like, there are games that were digitally available for Wii U that were like retro games, but those games are not available for Nintendo Switch. And so, like, you just can't buy them. And so even if you want to play them, you can't. You have to actually bust out your Wii U. And so I am being corrected in chat by Nate. It's Lumiose is how they've already said it, but you do you. And so Lumiose. That makes sense. Yeah, Lumiose. And so
it's Lumiosa.
Not Lumiose.
Lumiose.
And so and then Nate also says that the TCG app looks to be more about collecting than playing. I could have completely misunderstood. So happy to be wrong there. Gary also says TCG app looks good and says that they've been listening to Addie LaRue while walking their route and loving it so far. The correct answer.
Yes,
and so,
the absolute correct answer.
Nate says it has a play element, but it's more about the collecting. I mean, knowing Pokemon TCG's audience, that makes sense.
Yep.
Like, I feel like the general stereotype of Pokemon player TCG people is that none of them play the game; they just collect the cards. And, like, while obviously not true, that's very much like the internet stereotype for that game. Is that, like, no one actually knows how to play the game. And so, but yeah, I'm super excited for Legends. Again, this is not the Legends that I wanted, but I'm just happy that we got it.
That we're getting something.
Yeah. And although it is interesting, this is the first year that there will not be a major Pokemon release, I believe, since 2015.
Fascinating.
And so counting DLC in there for, like, Scarlet Violet and Sword and Shield. This is the first year that there has not been some sort of remake or Legends or, like, main gen since 2015. I'm scrolling back through our Discord because I know I posted it there. I'm trying to find it. And so I am now not seeing it. Yes, a first time since 2015. Yeah. And so that's super interesting as somebody who, Gary makes a fantastic point. I've heard they might still surprise drop an announcement for May, July for a game this year. Entirely reasonable. Pokemon doesn't really need to advertise, so they kind of get the benefit of, like, they can just drop a major Pokemon game and it can, but, like,
they put in all the work at the very beginning.
Yeah.
To just now they have to do is sit back and go, here's a game, and they
as Nate beat me to it in chat, my hope is that they're not going to do that. Like, I would love to see them actually take their time with whatever this Legends game is going to be. Again, I made the slideshow joke. I have to remind everyone, I feel like I need to say this every time. This is, like, kind of me gatekeeping myself. I put 160 hours into Pokemon Violet. I put, like, 60 into Arceus. Like, I feel like I've put my time into these modern Pokemon games, and it's okay to be critical of games that you enjoy. Like, you can both enjoy the game and have issues with how it runs. So
100%. 100%.
So, I feel like
I loved Horizon Forbidden West, but I still have criticisms of the storyline.
Exactly. I think it's always important to remember it's okay to have nuanced takes, even on the internet. And so, with that, if you had a favorite Pokemon announcement, if I'm just completely wrong about this Pokemon Grand whatever, let me know if I should try that. We do have a second piece of Nintendo news. Speaking of all of those old games that people want to play, that they can't, Nintendo has gone after Yuzu creators who created a Switch emulator, and they have been ordered to pay Nintendo $2.4 million in damages, and as well as continue their support of the Switch emulator. And so they were taken to U.S. federal court, and the main thing that Nintendo brought is that it was claimed that that through this service that there were 1 million copies of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom distributed, and so and that there was a major spike in Yuzu's Patreon page during that month, and so they specifically are citing that as damages, that could have been $1 million in sales that they, or 1 million units in sales that they could have achieved. And so obviously,
which to some extent fair.
And obviously emulation is always a hot button topic, especially when it comes to games that are hard to get. And so it's something that, like, had Nintendo gone after them for, like, hey, I want to play my retro, like, GBA games, and there's no way I can buy them legally, and, like, I feel like a lot more people would be against Nintendo. But, like, when this is brand new game that just released, like, it's kind of hard to argue that even if all 1 million of those people would not have bought Tears of the Kingdom, like, it seems pretty easy to argue that some of them would have, and that is damages. And so,
yep, exactly.
So super interesting to see how this shakes up from other emulators. Gary calls out this is Yuzu and Certa, and so I guess is it like same parent company? I am not familiar. I have not heard of Certa, but like a lot of the statements from Yuzu do call it out, and so I'm not exactly 100% sure what is like Certa. Gary, if you want to hop in, is Certa a different platform emulator? And so, but yeah, super curious or super interested. It's DS. Okay, thank you, Nate.
Okay.
And so that's something that I'm very interested to see how this is going to shake out for other companies that are doing this type of thing, or even like fan projects, stuff like that. I've said before, it blows my mind that there's no way to play DS or 3DS games on Switch. That I can't buy those digitally.
Like, I would think that those games would translate better to Switch than like just a Wii game.
Yeah, just put them side by side. Like, is it going to be the cleanest interface? No. But like, just let me play the games. I've said this before, but like, I would pay them right now if I could play like the 3DS Fire Emblem games on my Switch. Like, I want to pay you, Nintendo. Let me pay you money. And so I'm super interested to how this is going to shake out, if we're going to see other companies kind of like cease and desist, not necessarily in the legal terms, but in the like, whoa, if this is going to be $2.4 million, like, is it like, are we going to continue to do this? Or is this going to kind of just be something that's like, yep, we're going to, in 3 years when we're into Switch 2, we're going to hear a similar story for a Switch 2 emulator. And so, I
have decided the braids are coming out because they're giving me a headache.
Yeah, you do what you got to do.
Yep.
And so we'll see how this goes. I'm very curious. I have used emulators before. Don't come at me. But I have not in a long time.
I am also guilty as charged.
Yeah. Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Allegedly have used emulators. And it's definitely something that I'm always curious, because there are specific things. You see this with like modding as well, where like the modding community will add certain features into games, and then those get implemented into the game itself. So like a lot of emulators have the ability to play the game at like a higher speed. And then like some of the recent like JRPG remakes have incorporated that same functionality to allow you to like battle animations are even faster. The game runs at like 2x speed and stuff like that. And so it's always interesting to see those like fans bring the quality of life things that they want to. And
but that's like something I'm seeing / I'm sure everyone's seen with Baldur's Gate is that the company is implementing official mod support into the game. Because like they know that that's what the community wants, and it's already happening, and it's fun when the company like wants to support that kind of creative addition to the game.
Yeah, and Nate calls out Nintendo did this with YouTube years ago and walked it back pretty heavily. Might be an echo of that. Yeah, I could see that also being how this goes, where like 3 years from now, we're here. Like this company was the scapegoat, and now we are where we are. I could definitely see that, and I hope that whenever stuff like this happens, we're able to like not throw out the baby with the bathwater, and like we can actually still learn the important things. Like I'm reminded this is not emulation, or at least my understanding is not emulation, so this is different. But like there was a modder for GTA Online that like fixed the code for the game because it apparently used to run very slowly, and they like modded it to fix the code and then got a job at Rockstar.
Hey,
like Rockstar bought the mod from that person. And like, well done, Rockstar.
Yeah,
like that's such a good like. You do something really cool, we will buy it from you and make it an official part of the game.
And also give you a job.
Yeah, and like I love it when fans are able to improve their favorite franchises, and like again, while it's hard not to be on Nintendo's side in a story like this, again, I hope they are still able to learn like. Outside of the like I don't want to pay for it arguments for piracy and emulation, I am hopeful that they can at least take something from hey, what drew people to these platforms?
Yeah.
Because for all of I would guess for not everyone, it's I don't want to buy the game, and so or I can't afford to. Obviously, that's a part of it as well. But like I'm always curious to like why people are doing stuff like this, and hopefully Nintendo can learn some positive lessons through that. And so with that, Emma, let's bounce over to your topics for this week. What do you got for us?
First things first, to continue on the trend of video games slightly, I posted this in the Discord on Friday, but we had touched on briefly either last week or the week before the Mandalorian game that would be coming out. It is unfortunately no longer coming out. There have been layoffs at EA, which then have caused the Mandalorian game to no longer happen, which is not wanting to switch screens right now, computer, though I appreciate your efficiency in doing your job. The EA announced that they were laying off 5% of their workforce, which is, first of all, just that alone is wild.
Yeah.
That's a huge number. But of course, that did then mean that they're, not going to be making some of their projects. Already announced projects like Iron Man and Black Panther will not be impacted, but other reports state that. So apparently the Mandalorian game was unannounced, like
correct.
Unofficial.
It was technically, and so like there's an alternate history where it's just unannounced game is canceled, but like basically this leaked or was like strongly implied that they were working on like a Mandalorian game, but it was never officially announced, and so I think had that not happened,
so this cancellation also confirms that they were indeed working on it.
Yeah, and so because like obviously a lot of times if a project gets canceled, the people working on that project potentially are going to be laid off.
Yep.
And like that's a super sad part about it. And like this seems to just be, hey, y'all now knew about this project. We're gonna actually tell you what was canceled, and so the people that were working on that were laid off, and that sucks. As Sneaky says in chat, I wanted this game so bad. I was crazy hyped for this, and like obviously anyone losing their job to a layoff sucks.
Not anything I would wish on anyone.
Exactly. But like this game sounded so cool. And I really hope that we are able to find places for these creative people to continue to be creative and continue to make art. There's been so many gaming layoffs the past year and a half, and it gets to the point where it's like, well, where are they going to go in the industry? Because there's not places for them to go if people are being laid off everywhere. But I really hope that we're able to find these people, even if this ends up becoming the like from people formerly at Respawn, are definitely not Mandalorian game.
Definitely not. It's a similar but legally distinct. But yeah, this article does say that they're helping those employees find new jobs, which is, decent of them to do in this scenario. So the Mandalorian game that was unannounced but definitely ended up being worked on is no longer happening because of layoffs. Very unfortunate. We all wanted a fun Mandalorian game, but it's currently no longer happening, which is sad. So yeah. And then the one other piece of news that I have, because I was a Scooby-Doo kid and am still a Scooby-Doo kid, even though we didn't have cable, Scooby-Doo was like my go-to, my default. Makes a lot of sense for who I am now as an adult. Matthew Lillard, who played Shaggy in the live action and a couple of the animated shows, announced recently in the past couple of days that he is attached to a new Scooby-Doo project that is in the works. He can't talk about anything involved with it yet, really, because details. But he did say that it will allow kids to put themselves into a Scooby-Doo adventure, which sounds fun. And I love it so much because he definitely was my Shaggy growing up. I mean, there's quite a few actors who have played the various characters throughout the years because it's an old franchise, been around for a long time. But he was mine, and I'm excited to see that he's attached to a new project for the new generation of kids. And I partially brought this up because he was at Comic-Con this weekend. So
nice.
Yeah. So that's exciting. I'm excited about that. And I can't wait to see where it goes for us fun Scooby-Doo fans. So
I'll say, like, this sounds like a video game.
Yeah, like, absolutely sounds like a video game.
Like the way that this is described, like as you read, allows kids to put themselves into a Scooby-Doo adventure. Like that sounds like a video, and that's not like a good or bad thing, but just as we're talking about things, like that sounds like a video game. And I'd be super curious to like, what does a modern Scooby-Doo game look like? Because like back in the day, it would have been like a point and click adventure similar to like Monkey Island and stuff like that. But like that genre doesn't really exist anymore. And so if this is a game, I would be very interested to see how that would play out. Doing something like, I mean, I'm going to always just say like third person action game. Like let like each character kind of have their opportunity to like tackle problems in different ways and stuff like that. And I'd be very curious to see them play that out. And I really love Scooby-Doo.
According to chat, it's going to be a VR experience. Apple Vision Pro second quarter surprise drop.
Oh man, I can't wait to know when to be able to play it, since it's
I know, right?
It's only like $3,570.
I know, right?
So that $70 for the game is really what pushes you over the edge.
Yeah.
It was completely affordable until
Not
then.
the $3,500
Yeah.
for the Apple Vision Pro that you're gonna use only for the $70 game.
Yeah. I will
Matthew
say,
Lillard
I
paid me
don't.
$3,500 not to tell you this.
Hey, if they want to send Vision Pros my way, I will happily sell out.
Yeah.
I will say I have seen someone in public wearing a Vision Pro,
Oh jeez.
and it was indeed something.
Oh, I'm
And
sure.
so, it
I'm
is
surprised
indeed
I
a
haven't
vibe.
seen anyone
And so,
in LA yet.
yeah,
With
I'm surprised
it,
you
but
haven't. Like,
I also have been in Seattle over the weekend and have not left
I
my
mean,
house very much recently. So
honestly, kind of surprised no one at Comic-Con was wearing one.
not that I saw.
Yeah, like obviously you're not going to see everybody, and like there could have been like a Vision
Like
Pro
someone on
meetup or whatever,
yeah.
but like
Or a Ready Player One cosplay
exactly,
that had one.
I'm kind of shocked that there wasn't someone wearing one, and so super curious about this project. Very excited for what it could be. Like I said, like you, I grew up with Scooby-Doo. I love it. The Scooby-Doo movies were like, well, the first
Perfection.
one was really good. The second one I think was fine. Is kind of
Also
where we
perfection.
can. And so
Also perfection.
and like I am, it's an IP that I'm always super curious to see come back, because like it's so fun. I love that it's mystery and it's spooky, but like it's also like,
Child
hey,
friendly.
you can, yeah, and like you can solve this. Like there are mysteries in life that might look scary, but typically it's just a person in a mask.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
Is it literally a mask? No, but like there are problems in this world that can be tackled by figuring out who's the problem and unmasking them. And I love that lesson. And so, I'm super curious to what this could be. I'm very curious. Always happy. Things like this are always weird announcements too, because it's like, I'm working on a thing. I can't tell you about it. Shrug emoji, but it's this thing.
But it is fun to see like someone who's been involved with the thing for many years be the one to say, I am working on a thing. Because it's like, we've seen you in that role. We've seen Matthew Lillard in that role for like almost 20 years at this point. And we all love him in Scooby-Doo as Shaggy. Like, he is known for that role, among other things, including Scream. Scream? Yes. Scream. Yes. Horror. You wouldn't have seen it.
Yeah. Say, if you say so. I'll take your word for it. But that
like,
is...
He is the man of horror from All Range. So.
Not my thing. But I believe you. And so... let's wrap up and then jump to our post-show chat. As we mentioned earlier, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue book club should be up by the time that you are watching this on YouTube. And that means for March, we are going to be doing, of course, a normal book club. 3/27 is when we're going to have it. And Emma, what are we doing for book club?
I feel like if the hair is any indicator at all, I am forcing my fellow hosts to read Good Omens because I love it so much that we are going to read it. It's going to be my second time reading it in 6 months, which means like the 15th time I've read it over the course of my life. I've read it so many times for reading Good Omens. Yay!
I'm really excited. I've been really enjoying book club as this. What were books that we read last year that we really enjoyed? And having that be opportunities for us to take a look at things, with A Psalm for the Wild Built from Shanine, Invisible Life of Addie LaRue from me, and then now doing Good Omens.
Good Omens.
And I'm so excited to actually read it, because I've seen the show, but I've never like read the book, and so I'm very excited to jump in and to
I'm
get to
showing
experience it.
my little Funkos,
I love that so much.
and then my book. Because
Nice.
I want to get the
Oh,
reverse copy of this. That's the black cover with Aziraphale. So I have both versions of this edition.
nice.
But
I feel like I didn't know Terry Pratchett helped with the actual book as well.
yeah,
I
it
don't
was.
think
They sent tapes back and forth to each other of like just like voice recordings. Of course, this was what the 80s, 90s, of just all of their thoughts.
That's super cool.
So
I knew that they
yeah.
were like attributed with it,
yeah,
but like I guess I had just missed that they were also a writer of the book itself.
this copy is one of like it's a very beat up copy.
It is well read, and that's
It
good.
is well read. So many times being read. So I love it.
Yeah.
Is David
So that
Tennant inside the book? I mean, he might as well be. In all honesty, he might as well be. He might as well be.
yeah. So we'll be chatting Good Omens on the 27th of March. Please be excited for March 27th. With that, as we get ready for post-show chat, we are First Geek 411. Find us on social media. Join that Discord server. Shoot us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. Check out Redbubble for that merch. Watch live on Twitch at 6:45 Mountain Time. And then find the videos over on YouTube where you can like, comment, and subscribe. And then you can also check us out at our personal social media. Mine is Humar Whittle.
Mine is I am not prepared with an I in the prepared.
And it's been a great week.
Be a nerd!
Ride a sandworm.